for the debate. I recognize the member for Kenora-Rainy River.
Thank you, Speaker. It's a pleasure to stand and speak on this bill, on Bill G14. Bill 14 amends the Residential Tenancies Act and Cooperative Corporations Act to move certain co-op tenure disputes like arrears, late rent payments, willful damage from the courts to the Landlord-Tenant Board. And I recognize that affordable housing is an issue it's an issue that's faced by people all across this province. And cooperative housing is a very small subsection of that issue. It's a major concern in the GTA in Southern Ontario, but it's not so much of an issue where I live in Northwestern Ontario. And so part of my job as the member for Kenora-Rainy River is to bring that perspective, the perspective of Kenora-Rainy River, to this debate. And so what I will be focusing on is some of the shortcomings of this bill. Some of the issues that this bill really doesn't affect are access to affordable housing, the hidden costs associated with affordable housing, such as hydro, some of the renovations to houses that are owned by the working poor, First Nations access to housing, and homelessness funding. And these are all really big issues in Kenora-Rainy River. When it comes to the lack of affordable housing, we recently, when I say we, I mean the Standing Committee for Finance and Economic Affairs, we recently held some pre-budget consultation meetings in Thunder Bay. And at that meeting, I should say singular, at that one meeting, there were a number of presenters who came and brought some of the stories and brought some of the issues that are being faced by people in the Northwest. And one of the issues that was raised is that there have been no new houses built, this is affordable housing, subsidized housing, in Thunder Bay in the last 20 years. And right now, their waiting list is at 1,420. And that is for a population of about 110,000 people. And if you can imagine, 26% of the people who are on that waiting list are on the urgent wait list, and those are people who are in dire need of affordable housing right now. And this bill, it doesn't do anything to help those people. And this is the single, I venture to say, this is probably the single biggest issue for those families and those individuals who are on that waiting list. I mean, when you don't have access to safe and affordable housing, it makes it very difficult to pull yourself out of poverty. It's difficult to get a job, to maintain that job, and this bill, it doesn't do anything to help those folks. The other thing that this bill doesn't do is it doesn't help with the hidden costs that are associated with affordable housing. As I mentioned, in the Northwest, probably the single biggest cost associated with affordable housing is that of our electricity rates. It's not uncommon for people who are on social assistance or people who are the beneficiaries of the maximum subsidy for subsidized housing to pay about $85 rent per month. But it's also not uncommon for those people who are paying $85 a month rent to pay upwards of $1,000 a month for their hydro bill. How does that balance out? How is that any real savings? When you look at it in other communities across Ontario, they might be paying $1,000 for their rent, but they're only paying about $85 for their electricity bill. The other thing I need to mention about that is in the Northwest, electricity is an essential. I mean, it's not surprisingly colder in the Northwest. Here, when I come down to Toronto to participate in the House proceedings, I often joke that it's T-shirt weather down here. That's because I'm used to a colder climate at home, where it's in the winter it's anywhere between minus 20 to minus 45, and so this is, I joke that it's the tropics down here. Yeah, but the hydro rates are, we don't get a break on our hydro, and like I said, that's why there's a lot of people who are paying about $1,000 a month. The other thing is, for the subsidized housing that we do have, a lot of it was built quickly, it was built cheaply, and it was built a number of years ago, 30, 40 years ago. So we have units that are poorly insulated, We have units that are heated with electric heat. Again, it's no surprise that those electricity bills are so high. The other thing I'd like to talk about that this bill doesn't cover is, as I said, the hidden costs associated, or some of the costs that are associated to houses that are owned by the working poor. And this is something that I've seen firsthand. There was one woman who came to me probably about 3 years ago now when I worked for the former MPP. She was a woman who worked at Tim Hortons. She worked every single day. I believe she walked across town to go to her job, and she had the misfortune of having her furnace die in the middle of winter. And so she had a tremendously difficult time trying to access the funds that were necessary to be able to fix this furnace. I mean, she had to rely on space heaters, which she lived in a mobile home, and so this is obviously a huge safety risk. But also she had to rely on the one program that really existed out there to help her, and that was the CMHC home. And she found that she made about, I think it was $300 more than what the cutoff was. She made just over $20,000. This is a woman who, as I said, she got up every day, she worked, she did everything that she could to take care of herself, but it still wasn't enough. And this bill doesn't do anything to help those people who are struggling. The other thing that this bill doesn't cover is it doesn't help First Nations people who in the north are struggling to access just even basic housing. I mean, about a year ago we heard about the problems that are experienced by the people who live in the community of Attawapiskat. Well, one of the things that I've been trying to communicate to people is that Attawapiskat isn't a unique situation, that I have 22 remote First Nation communities in my riding, and I've got about 22 Attawapiskats. These are communities that are far removed. The only way into the community is by plane. There is a very short winter road season where the communities do try to bring in the resources, but still there's just so much need. We've got overcrowding, we've got houses that, and this is in the more northern part of my riding where the temperatures can dip below -50. They don't have doors. They have tarps for doors. They don't have windows. You have, as I said, multiple families living in one residence. It's completely inhumane, and we have an opportunity to address some of these issues, and we're not addressing these issues. And the last issue that I wanted to talk about that isn't covered by this bill is homelessness funding. In the last provincial budget, there was a decision to combine homelessness with housing. So the funding for emergency shelters is now coming through housing instead of Ontario Works. And in the Kenora district, the money that they received was divided into three separate homelessness shelters. There was Sioux Lookouts out of the Cold Shelter, the Red Lake Shelter, and the Kenora Shelter. Now, in Sioux Lookout's case, they received $87,000. And this is down from receiving $102,000 in per diems in 2012. This is a shortfall of $15,000. The other shortfall is there was an HPI grant that at the height of it, they received $40,000, but last year they received $30,000. This year they've only received $26,000. So again, this is a shortfall of $15,000. So they have a total operating shortfall of $30,000. And again, in Sioux Lookout, 99% of the clients are Aboriginal. So there's a lot of need, and I'm under no illusion that there's endless amounts of money out there. I know that there isn't, but it's about making strategic investments, because the people of our province are the future of our province, and we need to make sure that everybody has a level playing field and that everybody is able to contribute and live their lives to the fullest extent. And so I would like to see us move our focus, shift our focus to make these investments in people, because I know that we will get that much back and more. It's just a matter of shifting those priorities. It's a matter of not spending money on all of these scandals, and I know that we can do it. We do have the power to solve our problems. Thank you.